Hello everyone, welcome back to Jikook Moments. Today, we're not talking about rumors. We're not over-speculating. We're simply going to listen, because the language itself has already spoken. Have you ever noticed how a single word, one seemingly simple choice of wording, can open a layer of intimacy that is rarely seen? In a matter of seconds, Jungkook said something that is often translated in a safe, neutral, almost emotionless way. A comfortable translation. A low-risk one. As if it were merely a functional sentence that anyone could say to anyone else. But when we pause and look at it through the lens of Korean language and culture, the meaning changes entirely. This isn't about grand gestures. It's not about declarations of love. It's about one word. A word that is almost never used unless the relationship truly allows it. And when that word is spoken, in a quiet stillness, without distance, without awkwardness, the question is no longer what it means, but why that word could exist between them. Let's return to that moment, slowly. Because the more carefully we listen, the clearer it becomes that this was not a coincidence. This is not a minor detail that can be brushed aside. There's no need to invent extra scenarios, exaggerate gestures, or force emotional interpretations. The Korean language itself speaks, very clearly, if we're willing to listen closely. Jungkook's words to Jimin are often quickly translated as an almost administrative sentence. "You were very helpful," or "You helped me a lot." Structurally, these translations aren't wrong, but they are empty in meaning. They flatten an expression filled with intention and emotion into a neutral formula. And that's where the mistake lies, because what we're witnessing in that moment is clearly not a flat relationship. The turning point lies in a single word Jungkook chose to open his sentence, Dangshin. In theory, yes, Dangshin means you. But that equivalence exists only on paper. In real usage, in spoken language between people who share space, eye contact, and silence, Dangshin is a heavy word. A rarely used word. A word loaded with emotional weight. In everyday life, Dangshin is not used between close friends, co-workers, or people who are already familiar with one another. It can sound cold, distant, even sharp. It often appears in arguments or moments of tension, as an almost confrontational emphasis. That's precisely why native Korean speakers tend to avoid it. And yet, because of that very reason, when Dangshin appears in a calm setting, without conflict, without emotional escalation, the impact is immediate. There is one culturally recognized exception. Within an intimate, affectionate relationship, the meaning of Dangshin transforms completely. It loses its harshness and becomes deeply personal. In this context, Dangshin no longer means a generic you, but comes closer to my love, darling, or the person closest to me. It only sounds warm when there is an underlying assumption of trust and emotional closeness without distance. And this is where context becomes everything. That moment was not filled with rough joking, tension, or heightened emotion. The atmosphere was calm, almost quiet. Jimin was focused, fully present. Jungkook responded in a peaceful tone. No raised voice, no defensive body language. Not a single element pointed toward confrontation. So the idea that Jungkook would choose a word that, outside an intimate context, sounds cold or aggressive simply does not align with what we see and feel in that moment. Dangshin did not appear by accident. It was a conscious choice. In a language that offers so many more neutral options, or even allows the pronoun to be omitted entirely, Jungkook chose a word that is almost never used unless the relationship permits it. And that is the most important point. In that moment, Dangshin didn't sound distant. It sounded intimate, gentle. It almost carried emotional texture, not pointing outward, but enveloping. The word didn't need vocal emphasis or grand gestures, because its weight lies in its implication. This is where many translations fail. They translate the word, but not the relationship. They capture the grammar, but miss the emotional dynamic. And when that nuance is lost, so is the reason why that word, rather than any other, appeared at that exact moment. This kind of chemistry is never loud. It lives in subtle things. The way they share space without intrusion, the silence that never feels awkward, and the emergence of an unusual word precisely when everything feels calm. That's why, for those who understand the language and its culture, this moment is impossible to overlook. Dangshin here is not merely, it sounds almost domestic, a word that falls naturally, as if it belongs to the shared space between them. And this isn't an isolated case. This isn't the first time Jungkook and Jimin have used language choices that, even among native Korean speakers, are recognized as characteristic of established romantic relationships. Relationships marked by deep trust and emotional stability, often associated with long-term partners. The same can be seen in the use of terms like baby or my baby. In Korean culture, expressions like these are not neutral. They imply tenderness and attachment that go beyond general social norms. What's most revealing isn't just that Jungkook says them, but the way Jimin receives them. There's no surprise, no pulling back. His response flows naturally, like someone already deeply familiar with that language. That reaction confirms one thing. This is not a one-off occurrence, but a long-established dynamic. When all these pieces come together, the use of Dangshin, the terms of endearment, the consistent tone, and the absence of distance, the meaning becomes whole. This isn't a series of isolated moments. It's different expressions of the same underlying dynamic. And perhaps that's the heart of it all. True intimacy isn't always loud. It doesn't require bold confessions or dramatic gestures. Sometimes, it lives quietly, in barely noticed word choices, in comfortable silence, in something that feels too natural to be called coincidence. The Korean language is never neutral. Every word carries distance or closeness. And when a word that should sound cold instead sounds warm, when there is no rejection, no surprise, no boundary being drawn, the language itself has already said everything. Not to convince anyone, not to force a conclusion, only for those willing to pay attention. Because some relationships are not announced. They are read. Thank you for watching Jikook Moments. If you felt the same way about this moment, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Until the next moment, where silence speaks once again.